The day Skyler stepped into the crowded hallway, her heart raced faster than the usual chaos of high school. She could feel the eyes of everyone on her, the whispers from the corners, and the occasional snicker. She'd never cared much about popularity, but today was different. Today, something was going to change. Skyler had spent most of her high school life under the radar. Not too nerdy, not too popular, just existing in the background. That is, until Zoe Styles, the girl with the perfect life and a following of thousands on social media, noticed her. Zoe wasn't the type to waste time on someone she deemed unworthy, but Skyler was different. Zoe had a way of turning everything she touched into gold, whether it was her wardrobe or the way she carried herself. She'd been the high school queen bee for years, the one everyone tried to be like. And for a brief moment, Skyler thought that maybe, just maybe, Zoe had noticed something in her worth seeing. It started with a comment in the hallway one day, when Zoe stopped Skyler, her eyes scanning her outfit, a smug smile playing on her lips. "Nice shirt, but it's a little basic, don't you think?" Zoe had said, but the tone was not cruel. It was the kind of comment that came with a challenge. That was when Skyler first thought that maybe Zoe wasn't as perfect as everyone thought. But it didn't stop there. The following weeks, Skyler found herself the subject of Zoe's attention, as if she was being groomed for something bigger, something she wasn't sure she wanted to be part of. The pressure was building up. Every day, Skyler struggled to find her footing. Her self-image, which had been so simple and unremarkable, began to feel like a weight she couldn't shake. Zoe made it look easy. The perfect hair, the perfect body, the perfect life. But for Skyler, trying to keep up with Zoe's world felt like drowning. One day, after a particularly tough morning, Skyler was walking through the halls, her arms folded across her chest, when she bumped into someone. Her eyes snapped up, only to meet the cold gaze of someone she hadn't expected. "Skyler, right?" The voice was sharp, but it wasn't rude. It belonged to Tasha, one of the more popular girls, a friend of Zoe's. Skyler nodded, unsure where this was going. "Zoe's been looking for you," Tasha continued, her eyes glinting with something mischievous. "She wants you to meet her at lunch." Skyler's heart skipped a beat. Zoe had called her. What for? Was this some sort of test? What if she said the wrong thing? Skyler had never felt more out of place in her life. But she knew she couldn't back down. Not now. Not after everything. So, she straightened up and nodded. "I'll be there." When the lunch bell rang, Skyler found herself at the cafeteria, her palms sweating as she searched the crowded room for Zoe. There she was, sitting with her usual entourage, an easy smile on her face, completely at ease. Skyler took a deep breath and walked over, her feet dragging like they were made of lead. "Hey, Zoe," she said, trying to sound confident, but her voice betrayed her. Zoe looked up, her smile widening. "Hey, Skyler. Sit down, we need to talk." Skyler took a seat, unsure what to expect. Zoe had always been the picture of perfection, the kind of girl who made everything look effortless. Skyler had always wondered what it would be like her, to wear those designer clothes, to walk with that kind of confidence. "You've been getting a lot of attention lately," Zoe said, leaning back in her chair and crossing her arms. "And not all of it's good. People talk, you know. And it's not always what you think it is." Skyler didn't know what to say. The words felt like a slap, but Zoe was right. She had felt the eyes on her, the whispers that followed her every move. "Look, Skyler," Zoe continued, her voice softening. "You're not a lost cause. You could be something great if you stop trying to blend in. You just have to let go of the old you and start being who you're meant to be." Skyler blinked, unsure whether to be insulted or intrigued. What was Zoe saying? She had never wanted to be anyone else, but what if Zoe was right? What if she could change? Could she really become someone else? Before Skyler could respond, Zoe dropped a bombshell. "I want you to wear this dress for the fashion show next week. It's part of the new collection, and I think it could be perfect for you." Skyler's mouth went dry. A fashion show? Her? Zoe smiled knowingly, as if she had already won. "You can't say no, Skyler. You're already part of this now." Skyler felt a rush of emotions flood her chest. Fear, excitement, uncertainty, but mostly a longing to be seen. To matter. To finally be someone who didn't fade into the background. The offer was tempting, but it came with a cost. Could she really leave behind everything she had ever known about herself? "Okay," Skyler said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll do it." Zoe's smile widened. "Good. I knew you'd come around." As Skyler left the table, her mind raced. What had she just agreed to? Was this her chance to finally fit in, to stop being the invisible girl who was constantly overlooked? Or had she just walked into something much bigger than she was ready for? She didn't know the answer, but she couldn't turn back now. The choice had been made, and there was no going back. The next few days felt like a blur for Skyler. Every morning, she woke up with a sense of dread settling in her chest. The weight of her decision, to accept Zoe's offer, was starting to press down on her, making her question everything. Was she really ready to transform into someone she wasn't? Or had she just made a decision she'd regret for the rest of her life? The dress for the fashion show had arrived, and Zoe had insisted that Skyler meet her at the boutique to pick it up. The store was full of extravagant dresses, glittering fabrics, sharp-cut designs, and garments that screamed wealth and privilege. Skyler had never seen anything like it. She felt like an intruder in a world she was never meant to be a part of. Zoe was already there, of course, draped in a stunning outfit that looked like it belonged on the cover of a high-fashion magazine. She turned when Skyler walked in, giving her a critical look, her eyes narrowing as if assessing her. "Well," Zoe said, her tone dripping with superiority, "I hope you're ready to be transformed. This is a big deal, Skyler. It's not just about wearing a dress, it's about owning it." Skyler's stomach twisted. Was she really ready for this? But she nodded, determined to follow through. After all, she had made her choice. Zoe led her to the fitting room, where the dress waited. Skyler's heart raced as she saw it for the first time. It was a deep red, with intricate beadwork and delicate lace details that shimmered in the light. The dress was beautiful, yes, but it felt foreign to Skyler, like something she would never be able to pull off. She didn't belong in something so extravagant. Zoe handed it to her with a knowing smile. "Try it on, and let's see how it fits." Skyler took the dress and stepped into the fitting room, her hands trembling as she zipped it up. The moment she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror, she gasped. The girl staring back at her was almost unrecognizable. The dress clung to her body in a way that made her feel both powerful and exposed. She looked like someone who belonged on a runway, someone who had it all together. But it was all just an illusion. She stepped out, and Zoe's eyes lit up. "Perfect. You look stunning." Skyler wanted to believe it, to bask in the praise, but deep down, she felt like a fraud. She wasn't this person. She wasn't the girl in the dress. She was just Skyler, quiet, unnoticed, and out of place. She didn't belong in this world, and yet here she was, a part of it now. Zoe's voice broke through her thoughts. "You need to own this. You're not just wearing a dress, Skyler. You're becoming someone. Someone people want to be." The words echoed in Skyler's mind as she stood there, frozen. Zoe was right, in a way. This dress, this transformation, wasn't just about the fabric. It was about becoming someone else. The question was, who would she be after the transformation? Would she be happy, or would she lose herself in the process? Skyler didn't have an answer. She only knew that she had committed, and there was no turning back now. As she walked out of the store, the dress bag slung over her shoulder, Skyler felt a strange mixture of excitement and fear. The fashion show was approaching, and her life was about to change forever. But change wasn't always easy. Sometimes, it came with sacrifices, things you didn't want to give up. The next few days were filled with preparation for the show. Skyler spent hours rehearsing her walk, learning how to move like a model, how to hold her head high and stride across the runway with confidence. It wasn't something that came naturally to her, but Zoe was relentless in her coaching. "You have to embody the role, Skyler. You have to become the character." Skyler tried to push her doubts aside, focusing instead on the task at hand. But there were moments when she couldn't help but question everything. Why was she doing this? What was she really hoping to achieve? Was it worth it? The day of the fashion show arrived, and Skyler found herself standing backstage, surrounded by a whirlwind of activity. Models were getting their makeup done, stylists were adjusting outfits, and the air was thick with anticipation. It was like a dream, a world she had never imagined stepping into. Zoe was there, of course, overseeing everything. "You're up next, Skyler," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Remember everything I taught you. Walk like you own the world." Skyler nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She had practiced the walk 1,000 times in front of a mirror, but now, in front of all these people, it felt different. Real. The moment the spotlight hit her, she froze. The eyes of the audience were on her, and for a split second, she wanted to turn and run. But then she remembered Zoe's words. "You have to own it." Skyler straightened up, took a deep breath, and stepped onto the runway. Her heart raced with every step, but she forced herself to walk with confidence, to glide down the catwalk as if she belonged there. She could feel the eyes of the audience following her, judging her every move. But for the first time in a long while, Skyler didn't care. She was in control. She was in her element. The walk felt like it lasted forever, but finally, Skyler reached the end of the runway. She turned, a smile on her lips that felt more real than anything she had ever experienced. The crowd was clapping, cheering, and for a brief moment, Skyler felt like she had won. She had done it. As she made her way back behind the curtains, Zoe was waiting for her, a proud look on her face. "You did it. You nailed it." Skyler didn't know how to respond. Her heart was still racing, and her thoughts were all over the place. She had just walked in a fashion show, but did that really mean she had made it? Was this what she had wanted all along? Zoe put a hand on her shoulder. "This is just the beginning for you, Skyler. You're going to be a star." But as Skyler looked around at the other models, the glittering lights, and the frenzy of it all, she couldn't help but wonder, was she really ready for this world? Or was she losing herself in it? The days following the fashion show were a blur of excitement, but also of unease. Skyler had done it, she had walked the runway, and the applause had felt surreal. The world she had stepped into seemed so much larger than anything she had ever known, and now that she was part of it, she wasn't sure if she liked it. Zoe had kept close tabs on her, sending her messages, giving her advice, and pushing her to keep going. "This is just the start," Zoe would say. "You've got to keep your momentum going." But Skyler felt the weight of the attention. People started looking at her differently, classmates, teachers, even strangers. They all recognized her now. They saw her as someone who had made it, and she couldn't help but feel like an imposter. Was this the person she was supposed to be? Was she truly someone who could live up to the image Zoe had created for her? She tried to push the doubts away. After all, she had been given an opportunity, and that was something most people would dream of. But every time she looked in the mirror, she saw someone she didn't fully recognize. The dress, the runway, the spotlight, it was all part of the transformation Zoe had promised her. But now that she had crossed the threshold, Skyler wasn't sure if she was ready for the person she had become. Zoe had plans for Skyler. Big plans. The following week, she called Skyler again, this time with an invitation to an exclusive party. "You've got to be there," Zoe insisted. "It's going to be full of the right people, the ones who can really help you get ahead." Skyler hesitated. She was exhausted from the constant pressure of living up to the high expectations, but Zoe's voice was persuasive. "This could be your big break," she said, her words sweet with the promise of something better. So, Skyler went. She dressed in a sleek black outfit, something Zoe had picked out for her, and arrived at the party feeling like a stranger in her own skin. The place was lavish, with velvet curtains, sparkling chandeliers, and the hum of idle chatter from the guests, who were all dressed to the nines. Skyler felt out of place, a girl who had once been content to stay in the background, now thrust into the spotlight. She spotted Zoe almost immediately, standing in a circle of friends, her laughter ringing out above the others. Skyler approached her, feeling the weight of every eye in the room as if they were watching her every move. Zoe turned to her with a smile. "There you are. I was just talking about you. Everyone, meet Skyler. She's the one I've been telling you about." The group turned to her, and Skyler felt the pressure of their stares. She forced a smile, but inside, she felt like she was suffocating. Zoe led her to a corner where drinks were being served, and Skyler tried to relax. As the night wore on, Skyler found herself drawn into conversations with people she had only ever seen on social media. Instagram influencers, high-powered executives, and models who had been in the industry for years. They all had one thing in common, a hunger for more. They were always chasing the next big thing, the next step, the next level. And Skyler was right there with them, trying to fit in, trying to prove she belonged. But no matter how hard she tried to keep up, there was always a nagging feeling in the back of her mind. Was this really who she wanted to be? Was she really happy here, in this glittering, superficial world? Or was she just trying to impress people who didn't even know who she was? The night ended with Skyler feeling more lost than ever. She had spent hours trying to live up to expectations, her own, Zoe's, and everyone else's. But the harder she tried to fit in, the more she felt like a piece of herself was slipping away. The next day, Skyler stayed home from school. She couldn't bring herself to face the world, not after the party. She sat on her bed, staring at the dress she had worn, the one that had earned her all the praise, the one that had made her feel like someone else. The question that had been plaguing her for days was now louder than ever. Who was she becoming? It wasn't just the clothes, the parties, or the praise. It was something deeper. It was the feeling of constantly pretending to be someone she wasn't. Every time she put on a smile, every time she tried to act confident, it felt like she was wearing a mask. And the mask was starting to suffocate her. The doorbell rang, snapping Skyler out of her thoughts. She reluctantly got up and opened the door to find Tasha standing on her doorstep, a worried expression on her face. "Skyler, hey. I thought I'd check in. You haven't been around lately," Tasha said, her voice soft. "Are you okay?" Skyler hesitated. She wasn't sure if she was ready to open up about everything, but there was something about Tasha's presence that felt comforting. She took a deep breath and invited her in. "I don't know, Tasha," Skyler admitted, sitting down on the couch. "I've been doing all this stuff, trying to fit in, trying to be what Zoe wants me to be. But I feel like I'm losing myself." Tasha nodded, sitting down beside her. "I get it. I really do. It's not easy, being pulled in all these directions. But you need to ask yourself something. Do you want this? Do you want to keep playing the part they've written for you, or do you want to write your own story?" Skyler looked at her, her chest tightening. "I don't know who I am anymore." Tasha gave her a gentle smile. "Then it's time to find out. You don't have to be anyone else. You just have to be you." Skyler sat there, absorbing Tasha's words. For the first time in days, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe it was possible to stop pretending. Maybe she could find a way to live a life that was true to who she was, not who everyone else expected her to be. But Zoe's voice interrupted her thoughts. "Skyler, we need to talk," Zoe said, appearing in the doorway. "The big event's coming up, and I need you ready. You're the star of the show. Don't forget that." Skyler looked at Zoe, then back at Tasha. For the first time, she realized something. Zoe's world wasn't the only one that mattered. She had a choice. And she was starting to understand that the most important thing was not fitting into Zoe's vision of who she should be. It was finding out who she was meant to be, on her own terms. Skyler woke up the next morning with a sense of clarity she hadn't felt in a long time. She knew what she had to do. The glitzy world Zoe had opened up to her, the fashion shows, the parties, the constant need for validation, it wasn't the life she wanted. It wasn't her life. Not really. The truth was, she had been living for others, trying to mold herself into something she wasn't. And somewhere along the way, she had forgotten what it felt like to be herself. She had allowed Zoe's world to become her world, but in doing so, she had lost the spark that had made her Skyler. Today was going to be different. Today, she would take control of her life. The first step was simple: cutting ties with Zoe. Skyler knew it wouldn't be easy. Zoe wasn't the type to let go of someone she had worked so hard to mold. But Skyler had reached her breaking point. She had to find her own path, even if it meant stepping away from the bright lights and the fame Zoe had promised. The plan was simple: go to school, face Zoe, and let her know that she was done. She wasn't going to be her puppet anymore. When Skyler arrived at school, the familiar feelings of anxiety and fear crept up again. The halls felt like they were closing in on her, the stares of her classmates heavy on her shoulders. But this time, she wasn't going to hide. She wasn't going to shrink back. Zoe found her between classes, as expected. The moment their eyes met, Zoe's smile appeared, but it was different now, forced, as though she knew something was coming. "Skyler, you're looking great as always," Zoe said, her voice dripping with insincerity. "Ready for the big event?" Skyler took a deep breath. "Actually, Zoe, I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I've decided to step away from all of this. I'm done." Zoe's expression faltered, the smile slipping from her face as confusion set in. "What do you mean? You can't be serious. You're going to walk away from all of this? You can't just leave." "I can," Skyler said, her voice steady, though her heart was pounding in her chest. "I've been trying to live up to your expectations, but I can't keep pretending. I don't want to be someone I'm not anymore. I need to figure out who I really am." Zoe scoffed. "This is a mistake. You'll regret it. You're throwing away everything you've worked for. You'll be nothing without me." Skyler's chest tightened, but she stood her ground. "No, Zoe. I'll be something without you. I'll be myself." For a moment, the air between them was thick with tension. Skyler could see the anger in Zoe's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by something else, hurt. It was the first crack Skyler had seen in Zoe's perfect facade, and it made her wonder if, just maybe, Zoe was just as lost as she had been. Zoe didn't say anything else. She turned and walked away, leaving Skyler standing there, her heart still racing, but now filled with a sense of freedom she hadn't known in months. For the first time, Skyler felt like she had made the right decision. The days that followed were a mix of liberation and confusion. At first, Skyler felt like an outsider. She had spent so long trying to fit into Zoe's world that she wasn't sure where she belonged anymore. But slowly, she began to rebuild herself. She started spending time with Tasha, who had always been kind to her, and they talked about everything and nothing. Tasha helped her remember who Skyler truly was before all the fame, before all the pressure. Skyler also focused on her schoolwork, not for the grades, but for the satisfaction of doing something for herself. She stopped caring about what others thought of her and started taking pride in the things she was good at. Slowly but surely, she rediscovered parts of herself that she had long forgotten. Then, one day, Zoe came to find her. It was during lunch, and Skyler was sitting at a table by herself, enjoying a moment of peace. Zoe approached, her demeanor more subdued than it had ever been. "Skyler," she said quietly, "can we talk?" Skyler looked up at her, surprised. Zoe had always been so confident, so certain of herself. To see her like this, vulnerable, was something Skyler hadn't expected. "Sure," Skyler said, motioning for her to sit. Zoe hesitated for a moment before taking a seat across from Skyler. "I don't know what happened to me," she started. "I've been pushing people away, using them to get what I want. I thought I needed all this fame, attention, people to adore me. But I lost sight of what really matters. I've been so focused on the wrong things." Skyler listened, unsure of what to say. For a long time, she had been the one feeling inadequate, but now it was clear that Zoe had her own struggles, one she had kept hidden beneath the surface. "I'm sorry, Skyler," Zoe continued, her voice soft. "I pushed you too hard. I wanted you to be something you weren't. I wanted you to be like me, but I guess I was just afraid of being alone." Skyler was silent for a moment, processing everything Zoe had said. "Zoe," she said gently, "I know you didn't mean to hurt me, but you did. I can't be a part of your world anymore. I have to find my own way." Zoe nodded, her eyes welling up with tears. "I understand. I don't know how to fix it." Skyler smiled softly. "Maybe we both need to take a step back. Find who we really are, outside of all the expectations." For the first time, Zoe seemed to accept the truth of Skyler's words. She nodded, standing up slowly. "Maybe you're right. I hope you find what you're looking for." Skyler watched her walk away, and for the first time, she didn't feel the weight of regret. She had made the right choice. She had taken control of her own life, and in doing so, she had found a version of herself that she could be proud of. The rest of the school year passed in a haze of quiet contentment. Skyler didn't care about the parties anymore. She didn't care about being in the spotlight. She had found something far more valuable, herself. And in the end, Skyler realized that happiness didn't come from wearing the right dress or fitting into the perfect image. It came from being true to who you were, no matter how messy, how imperfect. The world would never be perfect, But that was okay. She didn't need to be perfect either. As the school year ended, Skyler stood in front of the mirror one last time. She smiled, not because she was trying to look perfect, but because she had finally accepted who she was. She wasn't Zoe. She wasn't anyone else. She was Skyler, and that was enough.